the 8th of December 1922, Volume 15, on the Immaculate Conception. I write to obey, and I offer everything to my sweet Jesus, uniting myself to the sacrifice of his obedience in order to obtain the grace and the strength to do it as he wants. And now, O my Jesus, give me your holy hand and the light of your intelligence, and write together with me. I was thinking about the great portent of the Immaculate Conception of my Queen and Celestial Mama, and in my interior I heard him say, "My daughter, the Immaculate Conception of my beloved Mama was prodigious and all marvellous, so much so that heaven and earth were astonished and made feast. All three divine persons competed among themselves. The Father poured out an immense sea of power. I, the Son, poured out an infinite sea of wisdom, and the Holy Spirit an immense sea of eternal love, which merging into one formed one single sea. And in the middle of this sea, the conception of this Virgin was formed, chosen among the chosen. So the divinity administered the substance of this conception, and this sea was not only the centre of life of this admirable and singular creature, but it remained around her, not only to keep her defended from anything which might shadow her, but to give her in every instant new beauties, new graces, power, wisdom, love, privileges, etc. So her little nature was conceived in the centre of this sea, and was formed and grew under the influence of these divine waves. So much so that as soon as this noble and singular creature was formed, the divinity did not want to wait, as it usually does with other creatures. It wanted her embraces, the return of her love, her kisses, and to enjoy her innocent smiles. Therefore, as soon as her conception was formed, I gave her the use of reason. I endowed her with all sciences. I made her aware of our joys and our sorrows with regard to creation. Even from the maternal womb she would come to heaven at the foot of our throne to give us her embraces, the return of her love, her tender kisses. And throwing herself into our arms, she would smile at us with such delight of gratitude and thanksgiving as to snatch our smiles. Oh, how beautiful it was to see this innocent and privileged creature, enriched with all the divine qualities, coming into our midst, all love, all trust, without fear. In fact, sin alone is what puts distance between creator and creature, breaking love, dissolving trust, and striking fear. So she would come into our midst as Queen, who with her love given by us would dominate us, enrapture us, put us in feast, and capture yet more love. And we would let her do it, enjoying the love that enraptured us, and constituting her Queen of heaven and earth. Heaven and earth exulted and made feast together with us, having their Queen after so many centuries. The sun smiled in its light and considered itself fortunate in having to serve its Queen by giving her light. The heavens, the stars, and the whole universe smiled with joy and made feast, because they were to delight their Queen, showing her the harmony of the spheres and of their beauty. The plants smiled, which were to nourish their Queen, and the earth too smiled and felt ennobled in having to provide the residence for its empress and to be trodden by her steps. Only hell cried and felt itself losing strength because of the dominion of this sovereign lady. But do you know what was the first act which this celestial creature did when she found herself before our throne for the first time? She recognized that all the evil of man had been the split between his will and that of his Creator. She trembled, and with no delay, she bound her will to the foot of my throne, without even wanting to know it. And my will bound itself to her, and constituted itself the centre of her life, so much so that all currents or relations or communications opened between her and us, and there was no secret which we did not entrust to her. This indeed was the most beautiful, the greatest, the most heroic act she did, to lay down her will at our feet, an act which made us, as though enraptured, constitute her Queen of all. Do you see then what it means to bind oneself to my will and to not know one's own? The second act was to offer herself for any sacrifice for love of us. The third, to render us the honour and the glory of the whole creation, which man had taken away from us by doing his own will. And even from the maternal womb she cried for love of us in seeing us offended, and she cried with sorrow over guilty man. Oh, these innocent tears moved us and hastened the longed-for redemption. This Queen dominated us, bound us, and snatched infinite graces from us. She made us incline so much toward mankind that we could not resist, nor did we know how to resist her repeated petitions. But whence came to her so much power and so much influence over the very divinity? Ah, you have understood. It was the power of our will acting in her, which while dominating her, rendered her dominator of God himself. And besides, how could we resist so innocent a creature, possessed by the power and sanctity of our will? It would be as though resisting ourselves. We could see our divine qualities in her, the reflections of our sanctity, the reflections of the divine ways, of our love, of our power, etc., poured over her like waves, as well as our will, which was her centre, drawing all the reflections of our divine qualities, and making itself crown and defence of the divinity dwelling within her. If this Immaculate Virgin had not had the divine will as centre of life, all the other prerogatives and privileges with which we so enriched her would have been in comparison an absolute nothing. This is what confirmed and preserved for her so many privileges. Even more, it multiplied new ones in every instant. Here then is the reason why we constituted her Queen of all, because when we operate, we do it with reason, wisdom and justice. She never gave life to her human will, but our will was always intact in her. How could we say to another creature, "You are queen of the heavens, of the sun, of the stars, etc., if instead of having our will as dominion, she were dominated by her human will? All of the elements, the heavens, the sun, the earth, would have withdrawn from the regime and dominion of this creature. All would have cried out in their mute language, 'We do not want her. We are superior to her, because we have never withdrawn from your eternal volition. As you created us, so we are.' So would the sun have cried out with its light, the stars with their glittering, the sea with its waves, and everything else. On the contrary, as soon as they all felt the dominion of this excelling Virgin, who almost as their sister never wanted to know her own will but only that of God, not only did they make feast, but they felt honoured to have their queen. They ran around her to form her cortege and to pay obsequies to her. The moon by placing itself as footstool at her feet, the stars as crown, the sun as diadem, the angels as servants, and men as though in waiting. Everyone paid her honour and rendered their obsequies to her. There is no honour and glory which cannot be given to our will, whether acting within us in its own centre or dwelling in the creature. But do you know what was the first act which this noble queen did when, coming out of the maternal womb, she opened her eyes to the light of this low world? As she was born, the angels sang lullabies to the celestial baby, and she remained enraptured. Her beautiful soul went out of her little body, accompanied by angelic cohorts, and went around heaven and earth, gathering all the love that God had spread throughout the whole creation. And penetrating into heaven, she came to the foot of our throne, offered us the return of the love of all creation, and pronounced her first thank you in the name of all. Oh, how happy we felt in hearing the thank you of this little baby queen. And we confirmed in her all graces, all gifts, such as to make her surpass all other creatures together. Then, throwing herself into our arms, she delighted with us, swimming in the sea of all contentments, being embellished with new beauty, with new light, and with new love. She pleaded once again for mankind, praying us in tears to let the eternal Word descend in order to save her brothers. But as she was doing this, our will let her know that she should descend to the earth, and immediately she left our contentments and joys and departed, in order to do what? Our will. What powerful magnet our will was, dwelling on earth in this newborn queen. No longer did the earth appear alien to us. We no longer felt like striking it, making use of our justice. We had the power of our will, which in this innocent child blocked our arms, smiled at us from the earth, and turned justice into graces and sweet smile. So much so that, unable to resist this sweet enchantment, the eternal Word hastened his course. O prodigy of my divine will, to you everything is due, through you everything is accomplished, and there is no greater prodigy than my will dwelling in the creature. End of the reading.